Hi, it's Robert Funston here again. I spoke last week in relation to this, but just to recap on that, what we spoke about really was just an overview of communications, how people communicate, what percentage and the percentage of communication, what is what, body language, that type of thing. I just want to add on from last week in relation to communications. There's four types, there's four people communicate in four different ways typically. One is the majority of people are visual, so they'll communicate visually, and what they see is what they communicate to themselves. Others are auditory, others are auditory digital, and some are kinesthetic. 80% of the population of the people that we deal with are what you call visual kinesthetic. Now, they'll communicate dominantly visually, but then they won't look at the facts, they go to their emotions to make a decision. So they might decide to do something today, but by the time they've slept, they wake up the next day and, oh, I don't think I'll do that. I liked it yesterday, but I don't think I'll do that. So 80% of visual kinesthetic. That's if you're dealing with the population, any type of industry, 80% are emotional in the decision-making process. Auditory digital are the ones there really facts-based. If you look at all the entrepreneurs, Kerry Packer, that type of person, they'll just look at the facts and make a decision. Emotions really doesn't matter much to them at all. Auditory people, you'll find people that read a lot, study. A lot of them, they'll speak with a voice. They'll speak like they're like a bird singing. Like a broadcaster. They tend to be auditory people, they'll read a lot. The kinesthetic people, the emotional ones, as I mentioned before, they'll tend to work in an area where they're helping people or building people up. So it's very important when you're dealing with people to know how they communicate. Because if you don't, if somebody is visual and you're trying to speak to them without painting them a picture, well, you really don't get far, you know. And if somebody is emotional in the way that they think and you're just preaching facts to them, it has the opposite effect. It makes them feel, you know, a bit insecure for anything at all. So unless you talk to a person, it really is four different types of languages that you're using with people. And how can you communicate if it's your wife, or if you're a female, if it's your husband, or your kids? If you don't talk to them in relation to their model of the world, how do you communicate with them when you don't? For these very reasons, and for the lack of ability in relation to people communicating with other people, that's where the confusion starts. It starts with children from a very young age and from relationships from the time they start, really. It's understanding the other person and also the value system that they have. For example, one might, the husband might value earning income, but the wife might like flowers. She might value going to the pictures more than the income. The income is a secondary thing to her. It is how she feels because she's kinesthetic. But the guy, he's choleric, he's out earning this and building, but she doesn't really care because it's not what she wants, it's not her value. So he thinks, I'm doing all these wonderful things, and she thinks, you're not doing what I want because I want this and you're doing that. So they're both right in their own way, but it's a different way. You've got to understand what the other one wants before you can communicate at all. And that's where you get all these problems, even with children the same as that. If the father's a choleric, he's out racing motorbikes or driving cars, but the son's artistic. And he says, he should be like me. So I'm not like that, but he could be like a great-grandfather for all you know. But if you don't treat him in relation to what he is, he'll be frustrated for the whole of his life. He'll not be able to please you, you can't please him, so you've got this stalemate between the two of you. And at the end of the day, people are what they are. They're not just an imitation of somebody else. So unless you deal with people in relation to what they are and communicate with them in the way they want to be communicated with, it just doesn't work. And this is why we've got so much problem in today's society, in families, in jobs, anywhere, everywhere, really. Something that a lot of people don't, they're not aware of it. They've got no conscious awareness of the fact that their body talks, their expressions talk. In relation to information that they get into their system, their body has no control. So other people are interpreting that. When you're dealing with children or husbands or wives, you've got to really, if you're playing poker, do you get a good hand and go, well, no, you don't do that, you go, you're cool, you know, there's nothing, you know. So it's no different. You've got to work on yourself, you've got to control yourself, you've got to make sure that whatever information you take in doesn't show on the outside. If you're in a process where you're doing a deal and the other person, you're getting excited, the other person gets fearful, you know. If you're cool, the other person, he doesn't care, he must have someone else that'll buy the property or buy this or buy that. So what it does do, it makes one person feel secure, the other feel insecure. So you've got to learn to just be ordinary all the time. Something else I'd like to mention is that just in relation to a friend of mine, actually he's a share trader and fiddling with shares and that, and what he said to me one day, he said, "Look, Robert," he said, "it's taken me 14 years of study to learn this one simple thing, how to make money from shares easily, but it's taken me 14 years of hard study to get here, and it's so simple." And that really is what we're talking about here. Once you get your head around this, it's a different way of thinking, and it becomes second nature. Once it's like learning to speak. It might take you 4 years to learn to speak. If it took you 1 year to learn to do this, it'd be probably the greatest investment you ever made. It's a different way to communicate, basically. And it's the type of thing where you think, well, you know, I've spent this amount of time learning it, but it's such a simple thing when you think about it. 13 or 14 years hard study to learn one simple thing to make money with the share market. If I'd done this in the first place, it would have been very easy. But it's not much different to this. If you look at what people have been doing for years, they've been just working on the words that you speak and the scripts, and you use this, and the rest they pay no attention to. It's a very simple thing, it makes perfect sense, but if you spend your time learning this the same way you learn to speak, because it is speaking but just in a different way, it'll change your life totally. And the life of the people around, anyone that you deal with correctly, because you understand what they are, you understand how they operate, and you talk to them in a way that they respect, not in a way that they rebel against, and you can do that without really realising that you're doing it at all. So it is beneficial really in all areas of your life. Anyway, as it turns out, we've made the second video. We're actually making a series of these, but it's like I didn't intend to do this, but I've got to go through my own mind and sort out the information and put it in order so we can make actually some sort of a training system out of all of this we've done here. So the second one's complete, but as we said last time, each Friday, so there'll be a new one coming out until the series is completed. This is new for me, really, as it's for you. I've done it for years, but it's a question of putting it in order. It's a bit like you've got a floor here covered in car pieces, and the car pieces make up the car, but you've got to assemble it. Unless you can assemble it all, put it together, tune it, the thing doesn't go. So that's what we're doing here at the moment. We're just working all of this, getting the information out, putting it in order, and then making a training program, because it really is life-changing, this stuff. To me, it's second nature. On a day-to-day basis you do it, but to put it in order so somebody else can understand it all, it's a different thing. So that's what we're doing. So we've started off doing this, and while we're doing this, what we're doing is designing and building ourselves a training program as well as that. So we've got another couple of videos to go, and we'll just work through this. So thank you for listening. Stay tuned. Next Friday we'll be out with another video similar to this, and we'll just go from there and see what happens. That's great. Thanks.